Sunday in the UK is about walking in a park, fresh air with your kids, Sunday roast, and turning on Sunday brunch.
Sunday brunch.
Do you still enjoy doing Sunday brunch?
Love it, yeah. It's because it's live. It's live and it's madly long, you know. Recently, a couple of times, my co-presenter Simon's been off ill, and I've had to do all 3 hours on my own. Begin with, I go, oh, Christ, I'm going to be so knackered. And then by the time I get to the studio, I'm like, come on, this is it, you know, because I have to earn my money. And I love it when I have to earn my money. I love it when things go wrong and I have to earn my money. Because otherwise, what's the point of being a presenter? Do you know what I mean? You've got all these skills. I've been doing live TV for, God knows, nearly 30 years now. Live radio, podcasting, doing everything. If I haven't got any skills, you know, and I've got the skills, so I want to every now and then use them. So I like it when things go down. It's like, what's Tim going to do? It's brilliant. I love it.
Right, welcome back to the podcast, Stephen Sully's Study. I'm here at my second home, Woodbury House over in Mayfair, and I've got a podcast part 2 with Mr. Tim Lovejoy. Thank you very much for your time.
It's all right. It's been quite a lot since the last 3 years. We've had a pandemic and everything.
We've had some crazy moments here and also abroad, which I'm sure we'll get into. I'm not trying to plug our place, but this is the first time you've been to our new organisation or our new gallery space. What do you think about the gallery and what do you think about the current installation, Tim?
Love it. Yeah, a big fan because it's like I'm completely out of my depth when it comes to any form of art. All I know about art is I look at it and I either like it or I don't. And actually, if I don't like it, it doesn't matter if it does something to me. I remember the first time I saw Tracy Emin's bed, you know, the unmade bed. And I was like, oh, what's that? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And that's good art, right? If you start thinking about it. Bad art, I think, is when it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make you happy, doesn't make you sad, doesn't do anything for you. So, but I did teach, a while ago, I said to myself, you know what, there's a few things in life that I don't want to learn about. And one of them's wine. I like wine.
I love wine.
But I don't want to learn about it. Because I find, as if you find this, but as a human, you go, right, I like this, so I'm going to learn everything there is to learn about it. Then you look at wine and you go, holy shit, there's so much to learn about wine that I just thought, do you know what? If I'm at a really nice restaurant, I'll say to the, you know, what do you call them, the sommelier, I'll say to him or her, what wine shall I have with my meal? The other one's classical music. I really got into classical music when I had kids, because it really calms them down. Tip for any new parents out there, whatever you do, put classical music on in a car or anything, it just calms them down. And I was like, I like classical music. I'm going to get into, oh my God, that is just, it's so much. So I thought, do you know what, I'll just listen to BBC Radio 3 or Classic FM and I'll get all the classical music I want. And art, I'm a big fan of looking at art, but I don't know anything about it. And what I just find now is that I look at something and I go, look at that and I think, I'd love that in my house. That means something to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So obviously I got to know you via our mutual friend who's an artist called Scooney. Love him to pieces. He just came to our launch over in Dubai recently with his family. They're really sweet family. I know you've collected one of his works before. Have you expanded that portfolio since the last time?
I've actually got 3 things of his, but the one I've got is the doll, which is just the best thing ever. People still talk to me about it, like even if they've not seen me before. So, have you still got that doll in your house? What it is, it's like a sculpture of a boy holding a grenade. As you know it very well.
Boy soldier.
Yeah, but mine's dressed as Max from Where the World Things Are.
Yeah.
So he's got the little sort of outfit on, the sort of furry outfit and stuff like that. He's brilliant. And I've got him in a glass case now, and people come in because people kept coming around with their kids, and because it's so lifelike, the kids would go up and start touching it. And I'll be like, oh, don't touch it. I paid a lot of money for that. But I love that because, you know, my girlfriend said the first time she came round, she was really into me. She said she really liked me and stuff like that. And she came round, she looked at it and went, I think this guy's a lunatic. And she said she just couldn't get her head around it. She just spent, we actually had this conversation only a few weeks ago. She said she spent the whole time looking at me and looking at the the thing. And that's good art, right? Yeah. That's good art. But I remember walking in that night. It was a pancreatic cancer do, and that night, and my brother died of pancreatic cancer. I walked in, I was with my mate Phil, and Madness were playing. And I can't remember why I was there. I think the pancreatic people invited me and they said Madness are playing. I'm like, oh, come. I love Madness. I love Suggs. Love those guys. And he was there, and I ended up having a night out with Skinny that night. But after I bought it, I walked in there, I looked at it, and I went to my mate, I want that. And he went, what? And I went, I want that. I love it. I want it. And so I start bidding, and I was useless at those things. It starts going up and up and up, like ridiculous money. And then I bought it, and I might have told you this on the first podcast. I bought it, and I didn't. Suggs kept ringing me, going, I've got your little man here. Do you want to pick him up? And I was like, yeah, soon. Because I woke up the next day and I went, what did I buy?
Yeah.
And it took me, but I love this bit about it. It took me like 3 or 4 days. Sorry, Scoon, if you're watching this, but it took me 3 or 4 days before I went and picked it up, because I was just like, what have I bought? And I got it home. And I was like looking at it going, oh my God, what is that? It's brilliant. But, but nobody else could get their head round why I liked it. The first bit of art I ever bought, sorry, I'm talking too much here, but the first ever piece of art I bought, again, I had had a few drinks, and it was a Victor Vasarely. Do you know him? He's like one of the original op artists. And, so there was a Victor Vasarely, and I was drunk, and I went around my mate's house, and he was an art dealer. A guy I'd sort of met and got on really well with him. And I went home again. It was that thing. I woke up in the morning, and I was living in Ladbroke Grove at the time. And it was one of those things. You see it on TV movies all the time. People wake up and go, "What the hell happened last night?" Sort of thing. And I woke up, sort of thing, came downstairs, and then looked at this thing, and I went, "Holy shit! I've spent thousands of pounds on a piece of, and it doesn't do anything. It's not like I can't drive it, I can't eat or drink it. I'm just going to look at it." And it was a moment of panic. And then you put it on your wall, and I've still got it. I love it. And you put it on your wall, and then you go, years later, you go, that's brilliant, isn't it? And I love it. So I've got enough art now that I'm really happy with. I've got a few Victor Vasarelys now, and I've got a bit of Scooney and stuff like that. And I like it. And I'm not sure I'd want to keep going. I mean, I'd love something as big as that. I love that Rich Hamilton stuff upstairs. If you want to gift me one of those, I'll take it. But,
I mean, look, I agree with what you say. Good art should do something for you. It should speak to you. It's a bit like someone said to me once, owning a piece of art is a bit like choosing a cat. The cat, you don't choose the cat will choose the owner. And with art, it has to speak to you. You have to be drawn into it. And if it doesn't do that for you, it's probably not going to be the right fit for your portfolio. Before we get right into the podcast, because I actually listened to our first podcast last night and this morning, which was, bearing in mind, 2019. How quickly has that time gone?
Yeah.
It's just flown by.
Yeah, rapid.
One Chelsea man to another. Where do you see Chelsea Football Club at the end of this season?
What do you mean as a business, or do you see it as a position?
Where do you think we... I mean, it looked like we were flying, but yeah. I tell you what, we have been done over recently by some teams that shouldn't have come near us.
We'll be sitting up and around 4. We might make it into might just get the 4th slot, might be 5th. I don't know. There's a lot of good teams this season, and we're not one of them. Cole Palmer's amazing.
He's sensational.
And what's interesting about being a football fan is, like, I've got a real love-hate with Chelsea now, because we sold our soul in that club a lot. When we became a trophy club, I didn't like it. To begin with, I loved it. Hey, all the Russian money, wee! I remember Ken Bates when we didn't have any money, but we had a brilliant time with all, Vialli and Zola and all that lot coming over. And
Petrescu and
Leboeuf. It was just brilliant. I loved it all. But then we have a situation where, we have the Russian guy come in, Roman, but he spent all that money. And I'm like, this is good. This is great. And then suddenly I started looking at where he gets his money from and stuff. And I'm a bit like, really? Is it, and then now we're, got, Todd Bowley, and it's like, we're a trophy club. We're somebody's toy. And it's really hard for me to invest in somebody's toy. And then I'm like, I don't give a shit about Chelsea. Jesus Christ. And then suddenly Cole Palmer comes along. And I'm like, I love this play. Because as a supporter, it's like buying into something. And something like that comes along. Like him, he's such a great player. He plays the game in that way I like it. He shows so much time on the ball. He's just brilliant to watch. And so, you know, I'm right back in it again. I can't help myself, and I hate myself for it, because I'd like to be able to just walk away, but I find myself drawn to it all the time.
Yeah. Good friend of mine called Lee May, who's been a real good person in my life from a business standpoint, also a friendship standpoint. He's got 4 season tickets at Chelsea. So back end of last year, he invited me and my son, who just turned 6 at the time, and I thought, is it a bit too young for Mason to go to Chelsea? Sod it, let's just take him. So me, my dad, Mason, and then Lee and his wife ended up going to the Chelsea game. Last Chelsea game I went to against Aston Villa, and it's when we won it 3-0. And Cole Palmer in the second half wasn't really doing too much, and he ended up scoring a screamer of a goal, and it was incredible. And like you just said, he takes so much time on the ball. He seems like he's so methodical with his approach. And I'm not a footballer, right? I mean, I played a little bit when I was younger, more of a boxer, but he makes it look so easy, and he just draws you into the game. But then you got other moments, not blaming him, but just the whole team. Like you get turned over by a team that you should be smashing, and it's so freaking frustrating. I just don't know sometimes why.
Why should we be smashing them? Because a lot of the other teams, I heard a Chelsea fan the other day saying, if we're not careful, we'll come below Bournemouth. But Bournemouth are looking great. Do you know what I mean? They've got a good team, got a good manager. Everything Bournemouth are doing is great. Just because they're a small club doesn't. We've spent a lot of money. Have we bought the right striker? We don't have one. I mean, Jackson's injured at the moment. But do we have a like a Drogba? No. Do we have the right goalie? Look like we got, you know, goalies making a lot of mistakes. Have we got a spine through that team? No. So it's like, if we haven't spent well and we're not doing the right things, we have no right to do it. But yeah, anyway, it is.
And the last point on Chelsea, are you going much yourself?
Nah, not much at all, because I actually gave my season tickets up because I was spending so much time with my daughters and taking them to all their sporting events and stuff like that. My season ticket prices kept going up and up and up and up, and eventually I had 4 with my mate. We had 2 each, and we just used to share them. And then we came to the decision not to do it. I still go to games, but you know, not every week. I didn't. And the other thing is, you know, I struggle to say this because it's the wrong thing to say, but I really like football on telly. I love it. I'm really big fan. I mean, I was part of the Sky, obviously, output years ago. It's just, I love all the pundits. I love it when you got, you know, Roy Keane having an argument with everyone. I like the Garys. I like Shearer. Alan Shearer, but I like Gary Lineker and Gary Neville. Yeah. I like Mike. I like when Dean Sturridge turns up in his rascal gear. I like it all, you know. I love Kelly Cates. She's brilliant. So I'm a massive fan of watching the game. I quite like all the hype as well. I enjoy it all, you know. Ali McCoy's brilliant. I love him on comms. I'm just a big fan. And it's funny because I think we're supposed to say no, we only like going to live matches. But you think about how TV have revolutionised the game back in probably the 70s through to the 80s. Then the 90s, they started showing more and more live footy. I remember Brian Clough saying it's going to kill the game. Didn't kill it, just changed it a lot. And the experience you get on TV. Last time I was down the Stamford Bridge, I just remember thinking... I was with my daughter actually, and she said, what was wrong with that? And I said, I don't know. I looked up to see where the replay was, and there was no replay. And I was starting to think, we must be at an age now where we can all have our phones and log into the local network at Stamford Bridge and watch a replay. Yeah. I mean, the VAR thing, whether VAR is good or not, they should be showing the crowd who are there, because the problem is that the people at home have a better experience because they get to see it all with Neville or whoever, Carragher, talking through what we're all watching. People in the stadium have no idea what's going on. They're just sitting there like, is it a goal or not? Don't even know. Yeah. You know, if you looked away for a split second and missed it, you literally have no idea what's happening. You're just sitting there blind. Yeah. We need to do more of that, I think. I think the game needs to move on a bit in the stadiums.
As you all know from the previous conversations that we've had over the telephone and the former podcast, my choice of sport is boxing, and even the lads down there in the sales division here at the gallery, they was saying, "Oh, you must be really, really excited about the Chris Eubank against Conor Benn fight." because it's going to be local in Tottenham, you might as well go to it. And I said, I'm going to be honest. I would rather sit indoors, glass of wine, maybe with takeaway, and watch it, because bit like what you were just saying, I love football with the atmosphere. There's like when I took my son to Chelsea and walked up those stairs and was on the halfway line, and I was there with Lee and my dad and stuff, and my son was just like, what is this place? I was living my child's like experience vicariously through him, and it was amazing. But with boxing, you are literally watching two fellas or two females in a room and just beating each other up. Whereas on the screen, you've got the commentary, you've got the replays, you've got the different angles. And that, for me, makes boxing. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. What is going on with boxing at the moment, though? Because you talk about that fight. I know that fight because I know their dads. So as soon as you start talking about that fight, I'm like, I'm interested in that fight. But that's a bit weird, isn't it? That I'm really interested. And then I get to, I was annoyed. I had to walk out, but I was around a friend's house, and they were watching the Mike Tyson fight. But what
Jake Paul?
Yeah, but what they decided to do was, him and all his mates. My friend was his girlfriend, basically, and they decided, and I was staying over at their house, and they decided they were all not going to find out the result. They were all going to get up really early in the morning, and then they were all going to go and start press play at the same time. So they're all getting up, well, no, not really early, but 7 in the morning, and everyone was having a bacon sandwich and watching the fight. I got to about around, I was like, my girlfriend wanted to watch it, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. It's just, it's just entertainment, right? It's not sport. It's like, why are we watching it, you know? And then after round 1, they were all watching. I went, I'm going to go for a shower. I can't watch this anymore because this is horrific. I don't know what I'm watching, but I know Jake Paul is not the best fighter in the world. I don't know anything about boxing. And I know Mike Tyson used to be. I don't know why they're fighting each other, and I'm not enjoying the experience. Did you enjoy watching that?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued, because there's a part of you that is an optimist for Mike Tyson, which is he used to be this ruthless, baddest man on the planet, a vicious fighter that would take on anybody, and 9 times out of 10 he would be unstoppable and smash the life out of that person. But the reality is, as a almost 60-year-old, is it? Or in around, or 55 or whatever it was.
I think late 50s.
Can you really, really do the same thing as you were once doing all those years ago against a guy that, I'm not saying definitely, but my gut is telling me that there's probably more to him than we know. And what I'm trying to say inadvertently is I think he's on steroids. I think Jake Paul probably is on some sort of sports enhancing thing. And I think he does train a lot. I'm not going to take that away from him. And he is focused on boxing a lot. And he's taking apart an old man and he's bringing him into the fold because of money.
Yeah, but Tyson looked like a 70-year-old man, not a 60-year-old man. You see 60-year-old men in the gym, they're not walking around like that. He was just, anyway, I know nothing about it apart from I got angry. Yeah. And I went, and everyone laughed at me when I went, I'm not watching this. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And I was like, this is not sport. I don't know what I'm watching. Went out because I was annoyed. I was annoyed that we got up to watch it. Yeah. And I left the room, and I came back. Everyone was just sitting there doing a bit like that, and I was like, well, what happened then? And they were going, do you want to know? It was really ugly. And I went, well, he goes, nothing really. I mean, just all a bit of nothingy. So
yeah. And our last point on that, I was torn really. I was like, a young man like that shouldn't be fighting an old man, period. But then equally, it's Tyson's life. No one has the right to tell him what he shouldn't do. And I thought, if he can make $10-20 million out of it, good luck to you.
But isn't the bigger question, and we got asked this about football always, is where is the sport gone? Is it going in the right direction we want it to go? And I think that about football all the time. I don't know if you know that. I do a podcast called Soccer A to Z. It's quite nostalgic. I've got a group of guys together from Soccer AM. We talk a lot about nostalgia, but we're all worried about where the game is going, what the supporters doing now. As I keep trying to point out, it's not about winning. It's I know we're being brainwashed with the idea from Nike and everybody else. It's only about winning. It's about supporting. That's where you're going to get your fun. And I said something really very controversial on the thing the other day. One of the listeners said, if you could get a team relegated, who would it be? Now everyone expects me to say Spurs or Leeds, our rivals, West Ham or Arsenal or something, or one of the bigger clubs at the moment, Liverpool or someone like that. And I went Chelsea, and they were like, why? And I said, because it would be brilliant. What a great experience. You watch those Leeds fans at the moment, they're coming back up again. And Tubes, who I'm doing with a Chelsea fan, he doesn't remember Chelsea in the second division. I remember Chelsea in the second division and going up. I remember us going down as well. So it's like, it's interesting. It's an interesting experience that he'll never have because we've got too much money. We're never going to go down again, not as I remember. But that feeling of you're together as a team, and they get like Leeds players, they keep scoring last minute goals, and the fans, and I'm jealous because I'm thinking, oh my God, that experience they're all having as they come up. When City did it and they came all the way up, all these teams who go down and then they come back up again. It's about supporting something. When West Ham won Europe not so long ago, a couple of seasons ago, it was amazing because no one thought they'd win Europe again, because they don't have the money of the big clubs, but they managed to find a way to win, that European Cup. My mates who support West Ham were having such a great time, whereas us lot who support Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, maybe Spurs, we're all going, we've got to win the league every year, otherwise it's a crap season. It's
bit like Leicester when they come through. I mean, incredible, incredible,
proving no one knows anything about football.
On that note, I'll talk about it in a minute. When 2019, I never had a TikTok, and you were talking on my on that first podcast, you were talking about TikTok. I don't think you said you had a TikTok. You might have, but you were asking me my thoughts on it. And since then, I'm now on it.
Right.
And the conversion from the TikTok audience to YouTube is phenomenal. It's really, really good. It's been a good tool for me. The amount of people that abuse me on there for looking like Jamie Vardy is unbelievable. I'll show you after. People go, I didn't know Jamie Vardy had a podcast. And I get it all the time, only on TikTok, which is really weird.
If only you had the skill of Jamie Vardy.
Only if I had his money and everything.
He's the most amazing player ever. Non-league player who wins the league. I mean, his story. Unbelievable. Just going back though, boxing. Where are we at with boxing now? That YouTuber is more interesting to people than to absolute athletes who've worked their way up from the boxing gym when they were teenagers or whatever, and younger than that probably, in boxing gyms, absolute masters of their art. It's not the boxers' fault, it's the people running that sport. They've got to get together and go, how do we need to start making this sport better. And you can't have dodgy fights anymore. I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't know because I don't know enough about boxing. I'm way out of my depth on that. However, it's scary that is, because boxing's such a great sport. When you go into a boxing ring, you can die.
Yeah.
There's not many sports you can do that in. Yeah. And you can die, as we know, or can get very badly injured. Why aren't we? They need some marketing people in there, don't they, at the moment? Because it's not quite working.
There was talks about Saudi were going to make Canelo Alvarez, which is arguably the best fighter on the face of the planet currently, or certainly one of them, against Jake Paul. And part of me was like, oh, that should never happen. It's just embarrassing. But the second part of me was, in actual fact, if Canelo Alvarez handed his ass, as in Jake Paul's ass, to him, he would absolutely realise what it is like to fight the elite of the elite and feel that pain. And then at that point, people would be like, okay, the game's up.
But it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
Because he could die.
Yeah, he could.
Because, like, a properly trained boxers, better than Jake Paul, I imagine.
But he is the person that put himself in that scenario in the first place. He's not been forced to do it. He wants to do it.
Yeah, okay.
So allow him to do it, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
2019, there was a statement that you made in the podcast which rings through all the time. It's a very positive one. And you said this: you need to find something. I don't know if it was your advice or you heard it from someone else. Find something that, one, makes you money, number two, makes you fit, and number three, makes you stimulates your creativity. And I think that's the
three hobbies you need.
That's such a great thing.
Yeah.
With that in mind, do you think you have that in your own life?
Fitness, money, definitely there. Creativity it's basically intertwined in my job. And I mean, I suppose I could separate it a bit, as in that Sunday brunch I present, I turn up, the brilliant production team produce it, I'm a renter presenter. It's live, so I'm part of the show. It's like, when you're a live TV show, they can't keep stopping and going, Tim, do it again this way. So it's got to be the way I do it. I suppose the podcasting is creativity for me at the moment. I would love to try my hand at finding a really creative hobby as well. I just haven't found one at the moment. I spend a lot of time with my daughter doing art. I'm rubbish at it, but she likes it, so I spend a lot of time drawing with her. But it's not really a hobby. It's something I'm doing with my daughter because she likes doing that. But I suppose the creativity comes from the podcasting side of things at the moment.
Yeah.
I find media really, really exciting at the moment with everybody. TV industry, I'm not sure if you know or aware of this, but it seems to be, it's a bit of a dying industry. So that everybody's telling you, you have to tune into all the podcasts and people talking about entertainment. Like, TV's dead, ratings are down. Yeah, ratings are down. It's very true. But there's one industry, which is the content industry. We're doing it now. So what's happened is we're able to make stuff on the cheap. You don't need 30 people to make this. It's just a couple of us sitting here having a chat into some microphones. Everybody still has a box in their room. Now, I know everyone says, no, I don't have a box in my room. There's some insane fact of how many people still have a television in their house, right? So you've got a box sitting in do you have a television in your house?
I have several.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So we've still got that there now. I know a lot of people are going Netflix, Amazon Prime, all that sort of stuff, but it's still there. And it's half the battle. There's still a box in people's houses, which is exciting. There's still millions of people tuning into television, hundreds of thousands tuning in at any one time into a TV show. If I was to say to you, I'm going to give you a business with 100,000 people, if it was only 100,000 these days, 100,000 ratings on TV is terrible, by the way, but it's, actually it's probably all right these days, but it's not regarded highly. Like EastEnders used to get 18 million or whatever. But if I'm saying to you, here's a business with 100,000 people, you go, what? I've got 100,000 people. You'd love that as a businessman yourself. You'd go, 100,000 people, what, watching? And how often? You go, well, maybe daily or maybe weekly. You go, oh, that's amazing. So it's business and stuff like that. So I find it really interesting. I think the podcast is interesting. I remember years ago when I had my first podcast way before 2019, I started filming mine and everyone's sort of stupid. And I was like, surely you want visuals to go with it because there's different mediums. I didn't do enough with mine now, but I think, what's interesting now, I watch a lot of podcasts via social media now. So, like if you take this and you cut it up, and there's the bit where I say something wonderful. I don't know what that is. If I say something, really smart and everyone goes, oh, that's amazing. It might drag people in. But even if it doesn't, you've just made a bit of content for someone, even if it's only 12 seconds long. I say you need 3 hobbies in your life, one to be creative, one to keep you fit, and one to make you money. Cut that up and put it out. Everyone goes, I love that. You've made the content. So I think that's what's exciting about where we're at the moment. It's about making content. It's about being creative. So I find I went through a tiny stage of going, oh no, it's all doom and gloom, and now I'm like, no, this is really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely part of the reason why we started the TikTok channel, because from that podcast, because I disregarded TikTok back in the day. Well, when I say back in the day, only four and a bit years ago. Because I assumed, and I'm guilty for saying this, I just associated it with kids, like, young kids doing silly dances. But really and truly, it's been a real good asset and real good tool. And my following's going to be nowhere near as big as yours, but it's scaled up so quickly on there, really quickly. I'm almost at 80,000 followers on there. And I've had a 10 million view on there. I've had 4 million, 2 million, and it's incredible. And they transfer over to YouTube. And as you said, you got your long form audio, then you got the long form on YouTube, which is 2 different places to digest or consume it. And then you got your mini shorts, and now you can put shorts on YouTube, and it's incredible. It's a real good thing. Something I didn't think about, but just thinking about it on this conversation now. So it's, don't know why it's never dawned on me. So Tim Lovejoy, the guy who's on Sunday Brunch, who's on live TV, which has its own kind of pressures and psychology. And then you got Tim Lovejoy, the podcaster, which is pre-recorded, etc. Is there kind of a different skill set that you need to have, or a different mindset?
Yeah, 100%. And I think this has always been a real problem in with broadcasting. Not a problem. I watch a lot of, years ago, I went from TV. So I worked a lot in TV, and I went to radio, I went to XFM, loved it. And I remember one of my bosses sitting me down after a while and going, you're not very good at this, are you? He was the best chat I ever had. And he said, you're supposed to be painting pictures. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So interestingly, because we're filming this, we might get lazy and not paint the pictures. But I'm always aware that if people are listening to this podcast rather than just watching it, you need to paint the pictures. You need to explain what's going on. You need people to visualize what's happening. And I watched a lot of TV people move to radio at some stage, and I was listening to them thinking, they think they're on telly. So I learn, and I used to go to the guy all the time, give me feedback. How am I doing? What's happening? And I wanted to learn. Now, when I did podcasting, I did 6 pilots of my podcast before I put out the first one with my friend Mark, who's a producer as well, because we're going, oh, that's crap. This doesn't work, because we're trying to do radio, and it's different. Radio, you punctuate. I always did music radio, so you punctuate it with music. So I'm like, da-da-da-da, Stephen, bam, here's whatever, some band, and the music starts playing, and so you can always punctuate what you're saying. Suddenly we're in long form conversation, and you got to go, hold on, how do we make this interesting? And let's face it, there's a lot of people making a lot of podcasts that aren't interesting, and I think that's about to change, by the way. I think production's going to get bigger in a lot of podcasts, because I think you're going to have to start I think it's going to have to come up to a level, because everyone's, as you say, as I can see here, sorry, you've got some cameras here, you've got some lights, you're investing in it now, whereas for a long time it was just 2 mics and people sitting there pretty much doing it to their phones type thing, that's how they were. You got to get the standard up a bit. But I think, I did have to work hard at it, and I'm still working hard. So my new podcast, the one I've been doing with the guys, we've got items, we've got signposts, all the stuff I've learned from TV and radio, putting some signposts in. A lot of people do it on podcasts, but I'm doing it quite a lot just to see how that resonates with the listener. And it does, because people write in and go, I've got an item for your blah, blah, blah. I've got a thing for your, like on Soccer Em, I'd have Third Eyes. On this, I've got WWWF, what's wrong with football. People love writing in and going, I'll tell you what's wrong with football. People wearing gloves, things like that, things which wind people up, but people can see some signposts. And I think that's, so yeah, I am changing and I'm trying to work it out, but podcasting, the new world of content, the new world of media, we're in the Wild West still. And that's the exciting bit. There's no reason why you can't be the new Joe Rogan. There's no reason anyone can do this, because we're still in the Wild West. You've got to find your angle. You've got to find, Joe Rogan's been around for so long now. I think it'd be hard to catch up with him, but it will. He'll dip, and someone else will come along, because that's what happens, isn't it?
We in the first podcast as well spoke about something that I didn't realise was so kind of important, or such a significant thing within the world of podcasting, which is kind of your mission behind it slightly, or your style of podcasting. I'll give you an example. What I like about Joe Rogan, love his content or not love his content, love his guests or don't love his guests, or love his psychology or whatever, I do think he's authentic. I think he tells the truth, and I don't think, even if he's got Donald Trump in front of him, he's just going to agree with him because he's Donald Trump. He's going to say his own bit, whether that's against Donald Trump's views or not. I honestly do believe that. Other podcasts will just go with the wind and just be yes person. But you mentioned something which I've only realised in the last few years. What people do, they set up the conversation so that guest or that person says something which they can cut out and use as a clip, whether that is good or bad. And I had someone, I'm not a big podcaster, I've got 14,500 subscribers on my YouTube channel now, and so I'm relatively mediocre, like small. But someone who's starting off, and they said to me, how should I go about doing it? And I said, you've got to really decide what you want to do. Do you want to do it for the hits? Because if you want to do it for the hits, get your ass out, get your boobs out, say something wacky, because you'll get the hits. Or do you want to be the authentic version of you, which is the long road? So you might not get all the hits right now, but in years to come, you'll stand for something. People go, that's an honest conversation. That's why I want to listen to them. And it draws them in.
The only thing is, though. Yeah, you need your values. You always need your values. You always come back to your values, and that's the important thing. I think values is sort of hand in hand with authenticity, but it works. The one problem with Joe Rogan I have. Listen to me, I'm a puppet Joe Rogan, the biggest podcaster in the world. The only problem I have, because I agree with you in everything you say there, and I like the fact that he'll say whatever he wants to say, and he's, as you'll use your word, authentic. My only problem is I remember interviewing Al Gore years ago, and he's very much on climate change and stuff like that. I spent hours researching to try and understand what his thing. I watched his movie. I watched it, and I had like a 3-minute conversation with him. I picked him up on a point. They were going, wind up. And he went, no, hold on, I want to answer this point, because I thought I found something that I can't remember what it was now, something quite interesting. And I loved it because I got sort of 4 minutes rather than 3 minutes, with Al Gore. But I spent a long time because I thought it was important. If I wanted to have a really long conversation with you about boxing, I'd go away and research it. I wouldn't just turn on the mics. And that my only problem is when you get to things like vaccination, or what's the other stuff he's been doing recently? I don't know. Those sorts of things. You think, you've got to really heavily research this stuff. You can't just let someone come on and just talk.
Say it a bit, yeah.
Because you end up, because it's such a massive podcast, you need to know the other side of every argument, really. And I personally, as a presenter, would struggle with talking to someone about vaccination, an anti-vax person or a conspiracy theorist of any kind, because I would have to get 2 experts on. I would never interview solo. So as soon as someone came on, I'd say, right, I need to put someone else on. And he can do that as well, because he's got the power to get whoever on, and I'd let them argue. And then he's done it a few times where he's done that, and then he can referee it, and that'd be great. But just to put someone on without, because he does say, I open up the mic and I just let it go and let the conversation flow. And that worries me, because there's so much false information out there now. So I was listening to some bloke on Instagram the other day who was saying water is bad for you. And you start going, what? And then he starts listing the reasons why he never drinks water. He thinks it's a bad idea, and you hydrate through fat. So you need to eat lots of fat and stuff. I'm like going, what? But then the points he made were like, oh, that's kind of
quite
compelling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the flat earth people. You listen, I mean, it's nonsense, but you listen to them and you go, oh, actually,
yeah.
And I find this is a problem, and we've got to somehow police this. So we've got someone like Joe Rogan, my mate Joe. He always needs to put the other side up. And I know it gets too much with the BBC balance thing sometimes, but sometimes you need a bit of balance,
Piers Morgan, I feel like he does that quite a lot. He'll bring on the big one he's had recently, which is a bit of a funny conversation to have, is about transgender and banning them in sport in America, etc. And he'll bring them both on. And I actually find it very comical, because he doesn't give a fuck. He just goes at them, and he has these 2 people almost arguing and fighting. But at least he has 2 people on both sides. And he's quite good at sort of playing both of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Joe Rogan, it is quite open, and they can say what they want on there. But then people like that.
But I see clips of Piers, and sometimes they're just people screaming at each other, aren't they? It just doesn't get anywhere, does it?
Yeah.
Like we're sitting here now, and sometimes I think that happens if you're doing too much down the video screen. There's too much zooming going on, I think, in media at the moment. And we will look at each other's cues because we're sitting right with each other. And you will interrupt me and I'll interrupt you, but we're fine with it because we're learning how to communicate with each other. As soon as we're down if we were doing this over Zoom, it'd be a lot different conversation. It'd be much more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It would be much more start-stop.
Clunky,
yeah. Stilted, that sort of thing, yeah.
Sunday in the UK is about walking in a park, fresh air with your kids, Sunday roast, and turning on Sunday brunch.
Sunday brunch.
Do you still enjoy doing Sunday brunch?
Love it, yeah. It's because it's live. It's live and it's madly long, 3 hours long. Recently, a couple of times, my co-presenter Simon's been off ill, and I've had to do all 3 hours on my own. It's that wonderful thing of I'm so used to doing the show that I do work very hard. I do, like everything, you do all your prep the day before. So I do all my prep on Saturday. So I go into the show hopefully knowing pretty much everything about the guests and everything else. I rely because it's 3 hours long, so many guests, I rely so heavily on all my notes and obviously the producer in my ear and everything else. He's been off, and I've found out on the way to the show twice via a text, and I've gone looked and gone, oh, okay, doing the whole show on my own, and then I'm like, begin with, I go, oh Christ, I'm going to be so knackered. And then by the time I get to the studio, I'm like, come on, this is it, because I have to earn my money. And I love it when I have to earn my money. I love it when things go wrong and I have to earn my money. Because otherwise, what's the point of being a presenter? Do you know what I mean? You've got all these skills. I've been doing live TV for God knows nearly 30 years now, live radio, podcasting, doing everything. If I haven't got any skills, and I've got the skills, so I want to every now and then use them. So I like it when things go down. It's like, what's Tim going to do? It's brilliant. I love it.
So the first time that ever happened, you're a co-host, right, to this live wonderful show that everybody tunes into, certainly in the UK, and then you're on the way to that show and suddenly you get that text or that call. There must be a sinking feeling. What was it like when you first had to do Sunday Brunch on your own?
The first time I just was, most times Simon's been ill. It hasn't really happened much in the years we've been working together, but when it happened before, it would generally be kind of a couple of days before or something. So they would then go, as TV companies do, let's get into somebody else. So I'll have a new co-presenter for the day, and that happened a lot. I think I've done it only 3 or 4 times on my own completely. And the first time, it was just like people going, I remember them sort of like panicking, can he do it on his own? The idea that someone would do a whole 3-hour entertainment show on their own. And then now they just go, he's ill, you're doing it. And it's like, all right, fine. Am I getting any more money? No, that's it. You're just doing it. So now I just love it. I love the fact they can trust me to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I just love live TV. I'm more comfortable on TV than I am in real life.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just find it really comfortable.
Yeah.
And I like it. And I think I know why it is now, though. So if you do any sort of Zen practice, mindfulness, stoicism, anything of philosophy wise, it's always about living in the present. Don't live in the past, Don't live if you live in the past, you get depression. If you live in the future, you get anxiety. Live in the present, da 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 da. When you're doing a 3-hour live TV show, you're living in the present. We're doing this now. We're enjoying it because we're living in the present. I can't be thinking about talking to you. I can't be thinking about what meeting for dinner.
I can't be picking up the phone and stuff.
So we're living it, and it's so rare that you get to live in the present. I think that's why people like bungee jumping and jumping out of planes and I don't know, going into shark cages, because you've got to live in the present, at that moment. And I think it's such a wonderful thing to learn to do, to live in the present. So for 3 hours, I live in the present, and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Because the reason our brains go forward and back, the thing that I don't think they really explain to you, whoever they is the reason why you're doing it is to stay alive. So it's not a bad thing. You're supposed to be doing it. So you're always going back. What happened last time? Why happened last time? Why happened last time? So why happened last time I was interviewed by you? And
analysing,
yeah. What happened? Because you're only a computer. You take all your experiences. Last time I crossed the road here, I nearly died. I've got to be more careful. And then you think forward, because you're like, how do I stay alive? What do I eat next? What do I eat next? I need to eat, otherwise I'm going to die. Da, da, da. All your brain's doing is going backwards and forwards, constantly pendulum swinging back. That's what kept me alive. This is what's going to keep me alive. Da, 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 'cause that's what you're trying to do. And then when you get in the present, you are alive. And that's the magical thing to it, which is why I tell everyone to meditate, just to try and do it, learn to do it.
You actually mentioned on the last episode as well about, I know you're not Buddhist, but there was something you were researching about not becoming attached to things.
Yeah, that's Buddhism.
And you were disconnecting yourself from ownership.
Yeah.
And we're all taught to invest into property, invest into this and invest into that and have nice stuff, which I'm definitely, I've fallen victim to that a few times. But really and truly, these things don't ultimately make you happy long term. Short term, they might. You jump in a new car, buy a new watch, you're like, wow, this makes me feel good. But if you can cut yourself off from that might give you the ultimate happiness.
Yeah, desire's a bitch is one of my catchphrases. you find yourself, when you find yourself getting in the loop of desire, whether it be holiday, car, job, desire, then you end up doing that thing where you're living in the future. By the way, I'm not an expert here. It's just stuff that I'm learning on my way. I think I might have said on the last podcast, I had depression. So I decided to read my way out of it rather than sort of take drugs. I decided, like, why don't I just read and find out what the hell's going on with me? And I realized that my depression was me trying to stay alive. I'm in such little control of my life that, of my body. Like I can't make my liver work any better with my kidneys. It's all just working. I'm just the PR man for my body, about 5%. And that had gone because the PR bit was busy. The mind was penduluming around too much. And
Scattered.
I didn't know what it was. So my form of meditation, by the way, is not like this clearing your mind. It's seeing what you're doing. So if you can notice what you're doing, then that's it. So if you just sit there, even for 10 minutes a day, and go, how am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I doing? Then you're removing yourself from the computer. And
bird's eye view effect.
Does this sound mumbo jumbo, or is it
all
right?
It sounds good. I like it.
So you're removing yourself slightly, and you're looking at yourself, and you're going, oh, I'm absolutely got bad desire at the moment. So I'm doing up bathroom at the moment. So I'm looking at a lot of bathroom stuff. And so the desire thing's kicking in, how big a shower head can I get? Do you know what I mean? Oh, those tiles are expensive, but these ones are brilliant. They're really expensive. It's like that thing, the desire kicks in, and you've got to be careful with it. My desire, clothes is my thing. I like wearing clothes, and I can justify it because I'm on telly. But, I've spent a lot of money on a lot of clothes, and, it makes me sick sometimes, how much. But cars doesn't interest me. So it's interesting. I managed to get rid of my desire for cars because I didn't have it. At the moment, I've got rid of my desire for holidays. Bizarrely, I'm just thinking about other things, but my desires kick in for things, and I start dung. Even to a certain extent, we were discussing it earlier with your lovely thick hair and my baldness. I've had desire constantly to do stuff about this, and it's like you suddenly realize the desire kicks in, and that's all you're doing, and you end up researching. I don't know if you've never done it, never had to bother, but bald celebrities, hair transplants, pigment, whatever that pigmentation thing is, microblading, whatever. You start looking at all, going, this is, I can do it. The desire kicks in. So,
look, I know what you're saying. There has to be a little bit of desire, though, for maybe to set some goals.
100%.
And direction.
I think every emotion you have is there for a reason. Jealousy is probably there for a reason. Hate's there for a reason. Anger's definitely there for a reason. One of my big problems with life, anger is there for a reason, right? You're trying to stay alive, and someone's doing something to you. This is the problem with road rage. Is what I don't think people understand is road rage is a very natural thing, because someone cuts into you, and you feel attacked. And so what happens is again, I'm not an expert, I don't know anything about this, but this is what I assume happens. Your instincts go, right, I'm angry. And, because you're trying to stay alive. These guys are, this man or woman's cut you up, and it's dangerous, and it's, et cetera, et cetera. Anger is there to keep you alive. What we're told all the time is you're not allowed to be angry. So people, I've got really angry about a lot of things in life, and I was always told you're not allowed to be angry. And then when you're not allowed to be angry, where does it all go? Yeah. And then eventually you end up manifesting it as depression, I think. And that's why if you start reading your way out, you could, like, if you notice yourself being angry, you can't stay angry. That sounds stupid, but next time you're really angry, you go, oh, look, I'm really angry. It stops because you've noticed. You say, what did you call it? Bird's eye?
Bird's eye view.
So you're bird's eye, and you go, oh, look at me, really angry, red in the face and really angry. And when you do that, so if you can remove yourself from it, which is really hard when you're in the moment, then I think what happens is you start going, oh, I'm not angry anymore. So it's that noticing thing, and you go, oh, I feel someone's come into your life and they've really angered you, or that they've upset you. You go, I'm really upset. And rather than go, right, I'll watch Netflix then because I'm upset, you go, why am I upset? And then you start going, what happened to my I sound such an idiot saying this sort of stuff, but you go, what happened to my computer that thing there is upsetting me so much? Why is that action someone did? When someone does something really small, like to me, one of the things which happens is if I'm waiting at a zebra crossing and someone crosses and doesn't thank me, For some reason, I've got so much rage for that. It's like, I didn't have to stop. I could have run you over. So I always teach my daughter stuff. Just thank people, be polite, just have some values in life. And if you've got good values and be polite, kind, nice to people, life can be really lovely, but,
Agreed. I'm 39 years of age. I'm going to be 40 this year, Tim. And
Looking good on it.
Thank you, mate. And I've got 2 young kids now. I've got a 6-year-old Mason. I've got a 3-year-old Logan, and trying to be the best dad I can. And the thing that I try and sort of, and I even say to the wife, is you can never control what other people do or say about you, but what you can control is how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I know that's quite broad and it's easy to say in the moment, because I do get pissed off with certain things, and certain things, someone can say something and I really want to go at them, but that's the reality of it. No matter what happens out there, whether it's raining or sun, I can't control that, but what I can control is how I respond to it. On that note of emotion, something I picked up on the last podcast as well, and this is a good insight to the psychology of what you do. You're a live TV presenter. Now, you do know whether Take That are going to come on as guests, or you've got this high level comedian, Jimmy Carr, Ricky Gervais, or someone really, really great. Even though you see their personalities on TV, they're still human beings, right? And they're going to come into your studio that day, going to spend 3 hours with you, but you don't know which version you're going to get. And you said on the last one, you said sometimes they're going to be guests there that I know from their energy, as I scour the room, they don't want to be there, or they feel a bit angry or frustrated or whatever. And what I do at the start of the show is kind of go at them first to draw it out of them. That's a really interesting psychology. How did you come up with that?
It's just being human. Like, I'm sitting in this room with you now, and I'm trying to. We're trying to have a friendly conversation, right? That's just life. What I don't want ever in any media I do is to stitch people up or be nasty. In my previous life, that's not the right way of saying it. Years ago, media was rotten to the core. The tabloids were horrible, as we know, and they would all that phone hacking and all that sort of stuff. Radio was people, presenters and everybody else hammering celebrity and everything. TV was like that. Do you remember? It was very snidey and stitching people up and everything else. And I remember going to Soccer M and saying, should we be nice to each other? When I worked at the Big Breakfast, I was at Planet 24. There was a lot of shouting. What was great about that was it was survival of the fittest, and I loved it. I mean, I was thrown in there. I had no right to be there. I've got no education at all. I've done some O-levels and that's it, GCSEs. And I was thrown into a TV company. I blagged it, managed to get myself a job there. And it was like, sink or swim. I was definitely a swimmer. I was like, right, grabbed everything and went, come on, let's do this. And it was great. A lot of people. So there was a good side with what happened then. So the qualities was really high. Entertainment was really exciting. The bad side was everybody was nasty and mean. And that really was, how TV was back then in media. And I want, when people come onto Sunday Brunch or my podcast, to think he's going to look after me, because they come into my house, as it were. I've got the choice, and if you ever see it on TV, I've got the choice now to be nasty to that person, stitch them up. They're going through a bad relationship, but they've got to sell their movie, and I go, what about your husband or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your wife or whatever? I don't do that. And I often say to them at the beginning of the show, that thing, do you want to talk about it? And they go, because they're so scared to say no, because if they say no, I'll go, right, that's an angle for press. Whereas I've never done that. I always just go, if you don't want to talk about it, I want you to have a good time, not a bad time. And I think that's the longevity of A, my shows that I've done, and B, possibly me, is that people feel comfortable that they're not going to get stitched up. And yeah. I said to you, I said I'd do your podcast. I don't do a lot anymore because I feel that with a lot of media, it's easier if you can get me to say something horrific.
Yeah.
You can get, if I say something really negative and it's horrible, you'll get a lot more traction out of that than if I'm just saying this nonsense that I'm saying now about being nice to people. And so that's what the angle people go for all the time. And so you've got to be so careful these days.
What I was saying at the start, well, a little while ago, like they engineered a conversation to try and get the hit. So I feel like this is a free-flowing conversation. You see there's no notes in front of me. I'm just going off of past conversation and getting to know you a little bit. And that's what I want it to be. But there are some times, and I probably fell into the trap of this, like, hundreds of episodes ago, where I'm thinking, right, what's the next angle on this type of conversation? It could be with a boxer, right? About someone hitting someone low blow, and I knew it was a legal shot and they don't want to talk about it, and I'll raise it because I knew that would get the hit. But then I was like, I'm now becoming a bit forced because that's not me. I'm just trying to get that hit, and I feel like I'm becoming a bit of a Jekyll. So I need to bring it back. Let's be Stephen Sudley human, and let's just have a normal conversation. Yeah. And if a hit comes off the back end of it, great. If it don't, who cares? Like, let's just have a good conversation.
But you could say to the boxer, couldn't you, before, I really want to talk about the low blow because everyone wants to hear that. Are you all right with it?
Yeah.
And if they go, yeah, then they know that you're not being stitching them up, because they can say, yeah, it was a mistake or something, or you've told them you're going to do it, and I think that you kind of trust each other. I'm having to trust you that you're not going to try and stitch me up now, and so it's you've got the rights to edit this however you want. So it's like, we haven't got the rights, but you can edit it however you want, and so it's a trust thing, and I think it's relationships. I think life should be about relationships, not just transactions. What are you going to get? It's too much of this, right? What am I getting out of you? What is it? Why on earth am I going to be bothered to talk to you? What am I getting out of it? What am I getting out of this? Honestly, Stephen, nothing really, apart from I like you and you asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. And am I going to get any money out of this? No. Am I going to get anything out of it? No. I just got a relationship with you and I like you, so it's like, fuck it, I'll do his podcast for him.
I appreciate it, mate.
No, but that's how it works. You're a nice guy. You've never hassled me. It's like it's really good. And I think there's so much of this at the moment where it's every relationship is transactional. And I think we're doing this. I'm going to get deep for 30 seconds. We're doing this with our kids. Right? It's like, if you don't do that, if you do this, I won't do that. If you don't do that, I'll take your PlayStation away from you, or whatever, your phone, or whatever it is. Everything's a transaction. If you look at our TV media at the moment, look at something like the biggest TV show in the country at the moment is The Traitors. It's like, it's a sort of thing. Can you stitch people up? Can you lie? You will be rewarded if you lie. Mr. Beast games. It's like, there's some, I don't know if did you watch Beast Games at all?
No, but I know.
Of it. I ended up fast forwarding it because it got so boring. But every now and then you get someone who goes on it and goes, no, I'm just going to be nice. And they're like, and you're like, what? They're not stitching them up. And you're like, and me and my daughter are like, we want her to win, or we want him to win, because he's like, and I would never watch it again, but I watched that series to see how it would play out. It just got really boring in then, because every round was like, be nasty to each other, be nasty to each other. It's like, oh God, how much can they be, stop making them be nasty to each other. Why can't we watch something nice? Obviously nastiness sells better than niceness. But yeah, I think life should be about relationships and not just transactions. And I think that should be in business as well. I don't know how you run this business, but I'm sure if you've got a relationship with the people who want to buy the art, they're much more likely to do it than just trying to rip them off for as much money as you possibly can.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that's it. But we've lost our way with that a bit, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit like what I was saying earlier about, you can have the paid media, which is you can look at the data and see if you're getting a return on the investment for that. And the facts are, as a business, you have to monitor that stuff. Or you do brand plays where you collaborate with like-minded brands to bring this bigger awareness about what you do, the artists that you represent, etc. You can't put a return on investment on that because you don't know. But if you do keep on doing it long enough, you draw people towards you because you become valuable and you become a trusted voice within your sector.
This is the interesting thing about the digital world we live in, is you can start seeing to the person how many people are listening to you or watching you, as you've mentioned a few figures on here. Followers and stuff like that, and it becomes, it becomes quite vacuous existence if you're just always chasing ratings. In TV terms, people used to talk about chasing ratings all the time. You know, for a fact, if I stick Taylor Swift on Sunday brunch, we know we're going to get more viewers because she's so huge. The problem is the next week you have to go, who's as big as Taylor Swift in the world? And you go, who did we search around for? And you start looking for someone as big as her and you can't find anyone. And then you're like, and that the panic sets in. Rather than making the product quality, that people go, I don't care who's on because I'm tuning in for the product. And that's the thing where you end up chasing ratings. And these days it's getting even more so because online content, you can actually see to the person how many people are watching, and then the engagement in it as well, it's quite scary. I'll do a bit of a name drop here, but Chris Evans, not the actor, the radio and TV presenter, said to me once, don't worry about ratings, worry about who's advertising in and around your show, because they're smarter than anybody else. They know who's going to want to buy their products. I thought that was really interesting. And Soccer AM, that was when I was on Soccer AM years ago. I started getting what do they call it? A TX version of it. Well, actually went out on TV to see who was advertising it. Something was like beers and cars and stuff. I was like, whoa, we're doing okay, you know. Our ratings aren't as big as CD UK, but bloody hell, look who's advertising.
Yeah.
In the show, you know, and you start seeing that. Same with brunch, good advertisers in brunch. What you don't want is just all the charity people.
Yeah.
Because if you've got just a load of, give money to cats or dogs or whatever it is, nothing wrong with those adverts, but that's the cheaper end of the, I think the advertising world. You want the cars and the beers.
Yeah. Being on live TV, right? I feel that you'll know this more than I do, but being a viewer, consumer, fan of what you do and what other people do. I'm 39 and I'm going to be 40 this year, and I've been watching TV all my life, and I've seen a shift with the culture of it, maybe with the rise of social media, with the rise of this woke mentality type thing. It does seem like people in the public eye have to watch what they kind of say and do more than ever, because one small kind of perception by somebody who's got a bit of a voice can bring the cars tumbling down. I'm not going to mention any names that have been cancelled recently, but there has been a few. And is it a bit more like I'm on eggshells?
Is that words or behaviour? Because it's moved towards behaviour now, hasn't it? From words, don't you think?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And that's over. I don't know. I don't. And all the people you're talking about being cancelled, I don't know any of them, by the way. So I have no idea what they're like. It's not sort of people I've been working with. Words, yeah, used to. Is it still the same? There was a really bad time a few years ago where everyone was watching what they were saying. But that kind of realization, I don't think I say too much stuff that would, I think there's a real shaming culture, which we've got into in the world. And I don't know whether it's always been there, but people like to shame people. And that's what I think happens. And, and it's like, have I got anything to be ashamed of? Not that I know of. I've done some stuff years ago that I wouldn't do now, but
same.
It's like you change as a person. You keep going. I just think it's slightly different because TV has lost its power. Like social media is where it's all at, isn't it? So they're basically, everyone's gunning for the influencers now. We're sort of being left alone. Us old guard here, the social media guys are. But I always think it's funny. I thought the angle you were going to go down there was, watching TV all this time, and now that social media's come along, and it's like, yeah, social media. It's hard for TV to compete because social media is so much more addictive. I always say our competition isn't what's on BBC One. We're on Channel 4. It's not on BBC One or BBC Two. It's TikTok and Instagram. It's like
my son is addicted to YouTube. He's just on YouTube the whole time. If he had a choice of going on normal TV, watching Paw Patrol on there, or going on Paw Patrol or one of these other, or just a YouTube channel by one of the influencers, he is on that.
The younger generation are.
It's crazy.
But, that's why TV now has to go and work out how they evolve to we've got YouTube on our TV. We all have, so I watch stuff with my daughter on TV. So, but yeah, it's that constant scanning and stuff. So that's it. But how do you compete against that? Because I know, like, when I'm ill, I can end up. At least I know it. I've got such an addiction to social media. Sometimes I've got this nightmare that I want to just throw it away, because I know it's not good for me. I want to throw away the news because I know it's not good for me. I can't do anything about any of the troubles in the world, so it's not good for me. I know, but I'm told that I need to engage with it all the time. But it makes me quite sad. I don't know about you, but when you see whatever's going on in the world, you go, Christ, really? Oh, God. I'm not sure as humans we're able to have that much stuff going in, but I need to know what's going on, but I don't want to. It's the same with social media. I kind of need to know what's going on for my job, but I want to sort of throw it away. But when I'm ill, I can end up sitting there for hours. I get nightmares sometimes when I get bad. I don't know if you feel the same with this, but when I get bad, I sometimes have to do things like get my phone and literally put it in another room. I'm trying to watch a football match or a movie or something, and I have to go, I've got to get rid of the phone, otherwise it's sitting there and it goes, just one more, look, just one more. It's mad, isn't it? It's so addictive.
So addictive. It's a paradox, right? I mean, I kind of dress it up as, this is a bolt on, social media is a bolt on, the podcast is a bolt on to my business. And it is, but I sort of push that narrative more to convince myself it's the right thing to do. But equally, I'm just like you. If I've got a moment of weakness, tiredness, I'm a bit hungover, I'm a bit stressed, I'll go, right, lay on my bed and go boom. And I literally will go through 2 hours of going through it, and I've lost 2 hours of my life and I've gained nothing.
Well, you say you haven't gained anything. I do believe that there's a reason why we do it. And again, we're just trying to stay alive. And the way you stay alive is being informed. You need to know which paths the snake's on, where the bear is, where the lions are. I'm assuming we're all living in Africa. But, you need to, bears in Africa, I don't think so. But, you need to know where the danger is. And that's why, gossip is such a big thing, because, if you find out, if you're gossiping over the garden fence and you find out Joe Bloggs is a bad guy, he might steal off you or might kill you or whatever, you need the information. And I think everything comes down to, I'm simplifying it all here, and again, I'm so out of my depth on all this, but I think we're just trying to stay alive. And so the most information, and also that's what I always say to my daughters is the bad information is the stuff which keeps you alive, not the good information. So if you know where the snake is, you don't get bitten by the snake. Knowing where the honey is not as important, because you can eat something else. But it's nice to know where the honey is, but but if you need to know where, and that's why we're looking for bad news all the time.
Yeah,
and all these people who go, why don't we do news shows with just good news? It's like, because it doesn't work, Though relationships are something we're interested in, so you can have good relationships. People are interested in good relationships. They're interested to see nice stuff happen as well. But generally, I think in humans and animals, people love a story where someone rescues an animal or has a great relationship with a dog or a cat or something like that. So I think we do like that side of things as well, and I think maybe we forget that sometimes.
When someone approaches me and says, I saw this really good Trustpilot review about Woodbury House, about the artist that you represent, or they come over to me and they go, that episode that you done with XYZ was really, really good, and I got a lot of value from it. I've got to be honest, it's one of the best feelings in the world. Better than money, better than anything else. It makes me feel like a high. I feel like that day I'm invincible. It just gives me this empowerment. You must get it all the time. But they must go, you're the guy, or Tim Lovejoy, you're on Sunday brunch.
Yeah, but I also get all the crap as well.
Does that feel good, though, when they give you the kudos of that?
It's nice when someone writes, and my old podcast, people used to write to me and say things like, oh, you're really helping me. I have mental health issues or whatever, and you talk about it sometimes. I didn't talk about it all the time. It's just because I had it. I talk about my experiences of it and what I did to overcome it. One of the big things I always say about it is you got to take responsibility for your own life. As soon as you take responsibility for your own life, I can take away you've got to take away other people controlling you. If you're sitting there and you're depressed and you're blaming your friends, your job, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your the government, the local council, whatever. If you're blaming anybody else, you're giving your control away. As soon as you take responsibility for your life, it sounds like such a weird thing to say, but it works. Suddenly, like, oh, I've empowered myself. Everything's my fault. And as soon as you make everything your responsibility, your fault in the world, you suddenly feel good about yourself. Then you set up your values, you don't get attached to things, and then you can move on. But I think the thing, what one of the things humans crave, they really do crave, is status. And
agree with that, definitely.
I think status is more important than money or power or anything. And by someone saying, I loved your podcast, what it's done is given you a little bit of status in the community. You know, we're not in a village, but whoever's contacted you has gone, I like what you've done. And you've gone, great, that's great. So it's given you status, a bit of, and I think that is, it's more beautiful than any money or anything I could give you. Here's £100 versus what you said there really resonated with me.
There was a guy walking out of, in Piccadilly. So for me, the most random scenario. So you get occasionally on Instagram, that was really good, or in the comments and stuff. And that's great. But it does feel like they're not robots, but it feels like, you know, a virtual person saying it. Guy come out and he was like, Steve. And I was like, yeah, like thought I must know him. And he was like, mate, I just watched that. And I was like, mate, that means so much to me. That's like really, really nice thing. And it just made me have a high all day. It's funny that little things do really matter.
It's nice, isn't it?
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. You know, when you do stuff for relationships, not transactions. And you got a bit of a relationship there with someone just having a little interaction with you, and you're going, that's brilliant. Yeah. You know, so
what's, so look, beyond TV, what's going to be next for Mr. Tim Lovejoy?
I'm just really, like, TV I love. I don't want to give it up ever. There's just something amazing about being in a TV studio. It's such a buzz. I mean, I was on this morning a little while ago, end of last year, and I walked onto the set and I was like, oh, look at this TV. It's like, no, sorry, look at this stuff they've got it set. And then there was a bit, and I was like, oh, that chair. And then there's like, this bit's not real. And it's like, of course it's not real. I work on TV. Do you know what I mean? I know it. But I'm still getting that buzz, and I'm sitting there, and I've got Kat Deely about to interview me. And I'm like, Kat Deely's about to interview me. Oh my God, that's really cool. Do you know what I mean? And it's like having a chat and the cameras are there. And I felt that buzz I got out of it. Because I'm so at home on Sunday brunch, I sometimes forget that it's a TV studio, you know, because it's like my little home. But I still love it. I get a buzz when I look at the guests, and I go over to the guests and say, "You all right?" And they go, "Yeah, I'm really enjoying myself." Or at the end of the show, they go, "Oh, that was really good fun." It's like, oh, that's so I still get a massive buzz out of that. I'm really enjoying podcasting, but as I say, I think it's look, I'm not an expert, but it's like, watch this space with podcasting, because I think it's evolving so much into content. And so I'm really excited about doing some experimental stuff. I've been working with the boys, and Helen on, Soccer A to Z. It's doing really well. And that's really interesting, you know, watching that dynamic of people coming back together and watching people enjoy that. I've got another couple of ideas for things that I think could be quite interesting. I like to keep experimenting. The good thing about experimenting now is, you know, this is not costing you a lot of money in comparison to TV shows, where it costs, you know, to put anything on TV costs tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, up to millions for drama a week, you know, sort of thing. Whereas this is cheap, really cheap. And you know, if these cameras are cheap now, the mics are cheap, everything's cheap now. So it's made it so that a lot of people can make content and stick it online. And I think that's a really exciting place to be. I just hope I can stay in it to keep doing it, because I like talking.
I see like Steve Bartlett and all the sort of bigger podcasters in the UK. They've really stepped up with their production over the years, and they've got big teams now, etc. There's something to be said about that, and there's also something to be said about kind of the raw versions.
Definitely.
It depends how you like to consume your content.
Just think the big thing is there's a lot of jealousy in the podcast world, and people have got to stop doing that, because you look at Stephen Bartlett. I've interviewed him on TV. Nice bloke, but what he's done with his podcast. Whether you like his stuff or you don't like his stuff, what he's done is unbelievable.
It is.
You've got to look at him and go, Jesus, whether it's him or the people around him, he's done something amazing with that podcast. He's invested in that podcast, hasn't he? You can tell because it looks amazing. There's all these great podcasts at the moment. They're doing real. Was it, Table Manners the other day? They've got De Niro on. I mean, on a podcast. It's incredible what's going on in the world. So it's just as exciting. It's just for me, that world of content is still really thrilling. The world of influencing, stroke social media, do you know what? I think they're amazing. I can't do it. I tried. I for all of about 2 weeks, I tried to talk into my phone and do all that sort of stuff, and I found it so soul destroying for me to do that. I couldn't do it. I was like, it just doesn't sit with me. It's not
who you are.
I can't. I kept doing. That's my problem with social media. I keep opening up and I go, am I about to talk about? And I'm like, who gives a shit what I want to think? It's like, it's like this thing. But they're brilliant. They are the best influencers, the best people on social media. They're working so hard, like ridiculous. I used to think I worked hard. These guys, from the moment they wake up, these influencers, these men and women, from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, they are making content.
They're in action.
I mean, God, I think we're going to see a lot of insane people in years to come because I don't know how they can do it. Everything they do. And you think about the ones who've made it, then you think about the ones who are trying and haven't made it. Times it by 10,000 or whatever of people sitting in their bedrooms going, here I am, I'm eating Shreddies. Here I am, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm about to do the longest whatever. And these people trying to come up with ideas and content. It's amazing. But I don't see myself ever going down that road. If I do, I'll come back on the podcast to explain why I did. I just don't think I've got the energy anymore to do it.
Just to kind of round off this conversation, Tim, one thing I wanted to pick up on is the world of social media, but more importantly, podcasting has become very influential in a lot of spaces, including probably the biggest space on stage on the face of the planet, which is governments, prime ministers and presidents. I believe, not that I've got data to support this, but part of the reason why Donald Trump won that last election is because he went on things like Joe Rogan and all these other podcasts, because it wasn't an edited or a piece of media that had a narrative. It was a raw conversation. And some people that maybe didn't like him and what he stood for, suddenly went, I may not like him so much, but actually he is a human being and he has got flaws and he's probably not as beastly like as all the media are making out. This is a normal human being, and he brought in a new demographic because of that. Would you support that, maybe?
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, he set up a TikTok account.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, that Biden didn't go on Rogan, did he? No, it wasn't. That was Kamala Harris. Yeah.
So
Did she go on Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan said he invited her on. They agreed.
He's good at that, isn't he?
They agreed, and apparently they said, right, you've only got half an hour, and these are the things you can ask me. Whereas Trump said, ask me whatever you want, and I'll be on as long as you want.
Have you ever seen that clip of Joe Rogan on Tom Green, who was like the original podcaster?
No.
Do you know Tom Green?
No.
It's like, is his name Tom Green? I hope I've got that right. He's like the original guy who was making podcasts and content online. He sort of did this show from his house years ago. I think there might be a movie about him now, actually. I'm now worried because you don't know him that I've got the wrong name. Anyway, so Rogan's on that, and he's gone to him. He's gone, this is brilliant, this, isn't it? This is really good. What? So we just like, then cool, flick forward, and now Rogan's the biggest media star in the world, right? Most powerful, most influential person in the media. Would you say?
Him and Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I looked at his statistics and it said that he's actually probably now taken over Joe Rogan slightly. Apparently.
Really?
He's had Putin on.
Did he?
He had Putin on his podcast.
What language do they speak?
He spoke English and Putin responded in Russian, and then they had someone sort of narrating it over the podcast. And he spoke about the American government. Well, I'm going to digress now, but they can tap into your phone whenever they want. And he said that he was about to do the interview, and so he got this call from this special number, and it was like, "We know you're about to interview him. Make sure you don't say anything stupid."
Wow.
Interesting, eh?
Have you, do you listen to Lex Friedman?
No.
See, I love him.
Okay.
He's really smart.
Right.
So his interviews, but thank God, these guys are doing 3-hour-long interviews.
It does. When I pick up a Joe Rogan one sometimes, even if it's got a fighter on there that I really, really like, I do get intimidated by it. I'm like, how can I digest all this? And then what I try and do overnight, I've got a sauna in my house. So I think, right, I'll get in that sauna. I'm not going to be in there for 3 hours, but at least I can do a chunk of it in there. And then I can save that part. And then on the train on the way to work, and that's how I break it down. But it does sometimes intimidate me, long ones.
I think just sitting here, I think I'm a bit, I've been so brainwashed with TV, the way TV works, where you've always got to give both sides of every argument and everything else. Maybe what Rogan's doing is legit, just to get someone on and let them do one side of things. I know that's not what we would do on a TV show. Maybe I'm too brainwashed into doing the balance thing. I personally, cause I was going back to the conversation we had earlier where Joe just gets people on and talks about conspiracies or something. But then I love it when he gets people like Graham Hancock on and they talk about ancient aliens and stuff. Do you know that stuff? I
mean, I don't know all of it, but I do like his views on UFOs, and I've got to be honest, there is some frightening stuff out there at the moment. Have you seen them fighter pilots where they're following something? And he's had these people on his podcast, and the guy's like, I've been flying for 25 years. I've seen everything. There was objects in front of me that suddenly was there and suddenly just disappeared, and all my technology on my jet could not pick this thing up.
So there's I probably because of Rogan, I used to listen to him a lot of years ago. I ended up going down that sort of
rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I ended up spending a lot of time. I became completely obsessed with UFOs and aliens. Like I'd spend every spare minute, I'd go, let's go and have a look, see what's going on in the world of aliens and, UFOs and stuff. I was actually so close to doing an alien podcast with a couple of mates because we were so into it, sharing information. One day, one of the guys said, I've been listening to a lot of Mick West. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you should listen to him. He's a debunker. So now I tune into Mick West, who's a debunker, and he explains everything.
Tell me what a debunker means.
He basically smashes it all, says it's all. He basically proves that all those videos that you see, he tells you what they are. They're generally aeroplanes, or satellites, or balloons.
Okay.
And what he does, he gets flight schedules. He cross-checks it all. He does all this sort of stuff. Look at him on best one's Twitter. So Mick West on Twitter. And so I was sitting there and I did that classic thing that all conspiracy theorists do, because I was right into it as a massively into UFOs. I'm listening to podcasts on it and everything. I love it. And about how we UFOs might be time travelers and all this sort of stuff. I'd listened to someone on Lex Friedman actually who'd bang on about time travel. It was brilliant. I loved it all. And then suddenly Mick West comes along and I'm like going, oh, okay. I did that thing. I doubled down and was like, he's a liar. I can't believe he must be being paid off. And I started watching more and more of him. I was like, actually, I think because he cross references like Starlink often, that satellite thing that Elon Musk, that's often what people think they are, or, often there's like drones, which I think are UFOs, or aeroplanes, whatever. You go on and he basically debunks pretty much everything that I've ever believed in. So
it takes a bit of the excitement out of it when you find out.
It does, but then he also put a video up once. This was a year or so ago, maybe longer, of a bloke from the help me out. Who's the people in America who do all these sort of espionage and stuff? You know, is it the CIA?
Yeah.
It's the CIA.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So it's the CIA, and so some bloke on there who's saying about how multiple governments have done massive cons, and so at one stage, I think somewhere in the world, America got some animals or maybe even humans, and they took all the blood out of them and then started a rumor about vampires because, you know, to control the people sort of thing. And he went all the way back to, I think it was the First World War in Britain, where we had like various sightings of things which were helping us in the First World War, which we went, yeah, let's buy into that and keep it going sort of thing. Angels used to come down and help the soldiers or whatever. So the governments have always been like, oh, this is good. So I started watching that, and it's like, he was sort of implying that sometimes the American government loves UFOs, so they start helping out by doing sort of stuff, and you know, people are controlling sort of thing, you know. And then I end up going down a conspiracy theory of what the CIA doing, you know. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting to read how susceptible we want to believe there's something different. You know, there's a myriad of massive religions in the world. They're all believing there's something else, and that's my religion for a while, was UFOs and ancient aliens and all that sort of stuff. There was an advanced race of humans on the planet before, and I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying there's not UFOs. It's just all the stuff I ended up reading, it ended up being quite debunked by Mick West.
It's like the place in Nevada where you can't, Area 56 or whatever it's called there.
Yeah, area. Now you've said that number. I can't.
And there's
what
like
number is it?
You can't go near it, and then you've got also over is it the North Pole? There's a part you can't fly over, and people challenge it all the time. Like, well, why can't you? And people say that is where the Earth stops, and you know, it's quite like, you know, compelling arguments when you listen to it, but then you also like, am I believing something which is completely loaded of shit?
Yeah, well, I've listened to someone say you shouldn't drink water the other day.
Well, there you go.
And he had a compelling argument. So, you know, it's like, that's the minefield at the moment online, is the diets. Oh my God, I've had to stop listening to those. Not eat enough protein. Don't eat this. Don't eat that. Can't eat broccoli. Can't eat fruit. Can't eat this. It's just like, it's so confusing now, isn't it? It's like,
massively. Like, there's a compelling argument to be a raw plant-based vegan, and there's also a compelling argument to be a carnivore. And I've seen two influencers who are both in very, very good shape. Both claim they do both diets.
Right.
They both got loads of energy. They claim they both. But who's right?
Well, my granddad lived to 95 and he was on the meat and 2 veg diet, so I'm sticking with that.
Sounds good to me, mate. I want to conclude this podcast by asking you the final question, which I asked you last time, which I ask all my podcast guests. And it goes like this. My slogan is be happy, never content. I've got my own reason and interpretation behind what I mean by that. But if I were to ask Tim Lovejoy, what does be happy, never content mean to you?
Be happy, never content. Okay. So, the first thing to do is to work out what happy is. And happy is being alive. It's not necessarily that absolute buzz of highs. The higher you go, the lower you go. Happiness is a contentment, and so sort of Zen philosophy and stuff, which we discussed earlier, will say being in the present. So if you're in the present and you're looking around and that is happiness. It is a contentment. It's happiness is not an extreme. So if you can wake up every day and go, I really like living, that, I think you're halfway to being happy. Not to just be going, I need to jump out of an airplane, or I need to be on a beach, you know, I need to do this. It's like, wake up and go, you know, is this supposed to be a really short answer? Because I'm not sure I've got one.
No, you can, as long as you want, mate.
So, you know, you've got to desire what you have, not what you want. And if you feel like, and one of the most important things about desiring what you have, not what you want, is you've had to create a life that you're happy with. And I think the way that you create a life that you're happy with, so during my time with depression, I realized that you have to have a basis to your life. You have to have foundations. Everything, to use a horrible example, if you don't build a building on good foundations, it will fall down. As a human, you need your good foundations. Where do you get your good foundations from? Oh, I've got a Bentley. Oh, I've got a nice house. Oh, I've got some clothes. I've got, I've got a really good career. They're all things that can go within a minute, and they're not good things to build a foundation on. What's really good to build a foundation on is your values. They're the one thing that makes you who you are. So if your values are good values, I'm a good person, I'm kind, I don't steal, I don't rob from people, I'm not trying to stitch anyone up. I'm comfortable with who I am. So you get your values sorted. And once you've got your strong values, then you can wake up every day and go, okay, who am I? And when you can wake up every day and go, do you know I'm a good person? Then the rest is all the fact that you don't have the car, you don't have the job, you don't have this, you don't have that. It doesn't matter, because you've got your own values. You're in control of yourself, and you know who you are. And as long as you don't change those values, then you'll be fine. Then you can desire what you have, because you've created a good world. You could be you could be Donald Trump. I'm not sure he's got the best values, right? I mean, I don't know him, but from the outside, all that money, all that power, all that status, yeah, he goes to bed at night and he might have stitched someone up or done whatever he's done. You could be the guy who's got nothing, or girl, you've got nothing. You're just living hand to mouth, trying to get your food, trying to work out what to do, just trying to get enough money to bring your kids up, do whatever. But you've got a strong set of values. You're a good person. You go to bed every night going, I'm a good person. You wake up every morning going, I'm a good person. You've never stitched anyone up like that. Who's happier? And who's living the best life? It's a long answer, isn't it, that? But
it's epic, mate. Thank you very much, mate, for your time. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully in the future we'll do a podcast part 3.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Nice one, mate. Thank you very much.
Top
Cheers.
man.